All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about something that I think is super important, and that is employee well-being
Yeah.
and how to create happy, productive teams. But we're going really deep on this one, and
Yeah.
we're using a specific set of questions as our guide.
Absolutely.
And the document that these questions are from is called 12 Key Questions to Evaluate the Well-Being of Your Employees. So that's what we're going to be diving into today.
Yeah, and I think what's so interesting about this is, we're going to be talking about 6 different categories of well-being,
Okay.
which I think is so crucial.
Yeah.
We're talking about emotional well-being and motivation. We're talking about stress and workload. We're talking about clarity and support at work.
Mm.
We're talking about interpersonal relationships, growth and recognition, and even how to make tangible improvements when it comes to employee well-being.
Okay, so let's just jump right into that first category.
Yeah.
Emotional well-being. Why is it so important to understand how employees feel about their work?
Well, I think this is such a crucial question, right? Because a lot of times I think we forget that people are coming to work as whole human beings. They're not just coming as, workers. They're coming with their emotional baggage. They're
Mm-hmm.
coming with their emotions, their feelings. And so if we're only focused on, the tasks and the productivity and the outcomes, we're really missing a huge part of what makes people tick, what makes them engaged, what makes them motivated.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where this emotional well-being piece comes in. It's about recognizing that emotions play a huge role
Yeah.
in how we show up at work.
So our first question is, how do you feel emotionally about work right now? It seems basic, but why is it so powerful?
I love this question because it's so simple,
Yeah.
right? Like sometimes the most impactful questions are the ones that just get straight to the point.
Yep.
And what I love about this question is that it's open-ended. It's not leading. It's not trying to put words into people's mouth. It's just saying, hey, how are you feeling? Tell me what's going on.
Mm.
And that allows employees to express a full range of emotions, not just the positive ones, right? They can talk about their frustrations, their
Mm-hmm.
challenges, their anxieties, their joys, their excitement, all of it. And by creating that space for authentic expression, we're already starting to build a foundation of trust and psychological safety.
Yeah, because if you only want to hear the good stuff,
Right.
then, are you really getting an accurate picture of what's happening?
Exactly. It's like putting on rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
You're only seeing part of the picture, and you're missing out on valuable information that could help you create a better work environment.
Okay, so then question number 2 in this category is, what do you enjoy most about your work and what is most difficult for you? Why is this one so important?
I love this question because it helps us to get to the heart of what motivates people,
Yeah.
right? What are those things that light them up,
Yeah.
that make them excited to come to work every day? But it also acknowledges that even in the most fulfilling jobs, there are going to be challenges. There are going to be aspects that people find difficult. And by understanding both sides of the coin, we can start to create a more balanced and fulfilling work experience,
Yeah, it's almost like identifying those energy leaks.
right? Where are people getting drained?
And where are they
Yeah.
getting that energy, right?
Exactly. It's like doing an energy audit of the workplace. Where are those areas where people are just losing steam, and how can we address those? Where are those areas where people are getting energized? How can we amplify those?
Okay, so we've talked about understanding the emotional landscape of our teams, but let's talk about something that can significantly impact those feelings, right?
Right.
And that is stress.
Yeah, stress is a big one.
It's like a constant companion in the modern workplace.
It feels like it sometimes.
It does. And so one of the questions in this category is, how would you rate your stress level on a scale of 1 to 10?
I love this question because it's so simple and straightforward.
Yeah.
It gives you a quick snapshot of where people are at emotionally,
Yeah.
but it also opens up a space for conversation,
Right.
right? If someone says, oh, I'm at an 8 out of 10, that's a signal to dig a little deeper.
Yeah.
What's contributing to that stress? Are there things we can do as a team or as an organization to help alleviate that?
Mm-hmm. But I imagine getting people to answer honestly could be a little tricky.
It can be. And that's
Mhm.
where building that foundation of trust and psychological safety that we talked about earlier comes into play.
Okay.
If employees feel comfortable being vulnerable and sharing their true feelings,
Yeah.
they're more likely to give you an accurate picture of their stress levels.
Okay, so then let's talk about that next question,
Yeah.
which is, do you feel like your workload is manageable?
This is such a crucial question because so often stress is directly related to feeling overwhelmed or overloaded with work.
Right.
And I think most of us have been there at some point. You know, that feeling where your to-do list is just growing and growing and you feel like you're drowning.
Mm-hmm.
And this question gives employees a chance to voice those concerns and to open up a dialogue about what's realistic
Yeah.
and what's sustainable in terms of workload.
And are there, certain tasks that can be reassigned
Yeah.
or, just kind of reevaluate, do we actually need to do all these things?
Exactly. It's about looking for those areas where we can optimize processes, delegate tasks, and just create a more balanced and sustainable workload for everyone.
Okay, so we've got a pulse on the stress levels within the team. And this next question in this category tackles kind of a big contributor to stress, which is, are you clear about what is expected of you in your position?
Yeah, I think clarity is so important because it's directly tied to our sense of purpose and our ability to perform effectively.
Yeah.
If we don't know what's expected of us, we can feel lost, we can feel confused,
Yeah.
and we can end up spinning our wheels and not really making the progress that we want to make.
Right, because then you don't know
Exactly.
if you're doing a good job or not.
Yeah.
Or if you're even doing the right thing.
And I think this question also helps to ensure that everyone is on the same page,
Mm-hmm.
right? That the expectations are clear, that there's alignment between the employee and the manager,
Mm-hmm.
and that everyone understands how their work contributes to the bigger picture.
Okay, so then we move on to, do you have the tools, resources, and training necessary to perform your job? So this is all about support.
This is huge. I mean, you can't expect people to excel if they don't have the resources they need,
Yeah.
right? It's like sending someone into battle without any weapons or armor.
And so we're not just talking about physical things, right? We're talking about
Right.
training.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about providing access to the information, the skills,
Mm-hmm.
the tools, the technology that people need to succeed.
Okay, so those are the tangible things. But what about,
Yeah.
creating that work environment where they feel supported?
Well, I think that's about fostering a culture of open communication, where people feel comfortable asking for help, where they feel comfortable raising concerns,
Yeah.
where they feel like they can go to their manager or their colleagues and say, hey, I'm struggling with this.
Yeah.
Can you help me?
Yeah. And I think a lot of that has to do with company culture
Absolutely.
and how,
Yeah.
if it's very top down
Right.
or if it is more collaborative.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it comes down to the leadership style,
Yeah.
right? Are leaders modeling that behavior? Are they creating a space where it's safe to be vulnerable,
Yeah.
to ask for help, to admit that you don't know something? Because if they're not, then it's going to be very difficult for employees to feel comfortable doing that.
Okay. And speaking of support, let's move on to a category that's all about the human element of work, interpersonal relationships.
Yeah, I love this category because I think it really gets to the heart of what makes work meaningful for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's those connections,
Yeah.
the relationships, the sense of belonging that we get from working with others. And so this first question in this category is really about gauging the overall vibe within the team. How do you feel working with your team and your leaders?
It's just kind of a temperature check
Yeah.
of what's the dynamic like
Right.
on the team.
Exactly. What's the communication style like? Are there any conflicts? Is there a sense of trust and respect? These are all really important things to understand when it comes to building a healthy and productive team.
And because, let's be honest, you could love what you do,
Yeah.
but if you have a horrible team,
Right.
it can really make your life miserable.
It can make it really hard to come to work every day.
Exactly.
And so I think this question helps to surface any potential issues early on so that we can address them before they become bigger problems.
So then we move on to this question. Do you feel heard and valued when you share your ideas or concerns?
This is such a crucial question because feeling heard and valued is fundamental
Yeah.
to a positive work experience.
Right.
We don't feel like our voices matter.
Yeah.
Like our opinions are being considered.
Yeah.
Like we have a seat at the table. It's very difficult to feel engaged and motivated.
Right. And this is something that every employee should be able to answer yes to.
Absolutely. I mean, this is not a perk.
Yeah.
This is a basic human need
Yeah.
to feel seen and heard and respected.
Absolutely.
And so it's something that we need to be actively cultivating in our workplaces.
Okay, so we've tackled emotional well-being, stress management, clarity at work, healthy relationships. We've covered a lot.
It feels like it.
So what else is there to consider when it comes to creating a truly thriving work environment?
There's still a lot more to explore. We've laid a really great foundation, but there's so much more to uncover when it comes to employee well-being.
I'm intrigued. I can't wait to dive deeper.
Me too.
Yeah.
We'll pick up right where we left off in the next part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned.
Okay, so, we were just talking about all those different pieces that make up a thriving work environment. But there's still a big piece that I think a lot of companies miss,
Yeah.
which is, people need to feel like they're growing.
Right.
They're learning.
Yeah.
They're developing their skills, and they're making a contribution
Yeah.
to something bigger than themselves.
Absolutely. So how do these questions
Right.
address that?
Well, that's where this next category comes in, which is growth and recognition.
Okay.
And the first question is, do you feel that you are advancing in your professional development within the company? And I think this is so important because it's about recognizing that employees are not just cogs in a machine.
Right.
Right. They're individuals with aspirations. They have goals. They want to learn and grow. And so it's our responsibility as employers to create opportunities for them to do that.
And it doesn't always have to be expensive, right? Like, I think a lot of companies think, oh, professional development, that means we have to send people to conferences or pay for expensive training programs.
Yeah, and that's not always the case.
Right.
I mean, sometimes the most effective professional development opportunities are the ones that are free or low cost, like mentorship programs,
Yeah.
job shadowing, cross-functional projects, even just creating a culture of knowledge sharing where people feel comfortable learning from each other. Those can be incredibly valuable.
It's about creating that environment.
Right. Where learning is just part of the day-to-day.
Right.
It's not something separate or extra.
Exactly.
It's just how we do things around here.
Okay, so then we move on to this question. Do you feel that your work is adequately recognized? Which I think is so huge.
Yeah, recognition is so important.
Because everyone wants to feel appreciated.
Right. And it doesn't have to be anything big or fancy.
Right.
Sometimes the simplest gestures can make the biggest difference.
So give me some examples. What are some things that employers can do?
Yeah, so I think one of the easiest things is just to say thank you,
Yeah.
right? Like a genuine, heartfelt thank you.
Yeah.
It can go a long way, but you can also get more specific, right?
Yeah.
You can say, hey, I really appreciate the way you handled that project, or I noticed that you went above and beyond to help a customer, or I'm really impressed with your presentation skills.
Right, and it's those specific things that make it feel more genuine.
Exactly.
Right.
It shows that you're paying attention.
Yeah.
You're not just saying thank you for the sake of saying thank you. You actually notice something specific that they did well.
Okay, so we've covered 5 out of the 6 categories. We've talked about emotional well-being, stress management, clarity at work, strong relationships,
Yeah.
opportunities for growth, and recognition.
There's a lot.
It feels like we've built a pretty solid foundation
It does.
for employee well-being,
Yeah.
but is there anything missing?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges that companies face is not just gathering all this information.
Right.
Right. We've got all these great insights, but it's how do we actually turn those insights into action?
Yeah, so how do you do that?
And that's where this final category comes in, which is proposals for improvement and personalized support.
Okay.
And the first question in this category is, what could we do as a team or as a company to make you feel more supported?
Right.
I love this question because it flips the script, right?
Right.
Instead of employers dictating what they think employees need, we're actually asking employees, hey, what do you need? What would make you feel more supported?
That's when you're putting the power in their hands.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's so important because it shows that we value their opinions,
Yeah.
we trust their judgment, and we're committed to creating a work environment where they can thrive.
And it might be something super simple
Right.
that they need,
It could be.
that you haven't even thought of.
Yeah. And so I think this question is just a really great way to open up that dialogue and to start brainstorming solutions together.
Okay, so then the last question in this entire document is, how well do you feel that work adapts to your personal priorities? So we're talking about work-life balance.
Yeah, work-life balance is such a hot topic these days.
It is.
And I think it's because the lines between our work lives and our personal lives are becoming increasingly blurred,
Right.
especially with technology.
Yeah.
We're always connected. We're always on.
Right.
And so it's more important than ever to create boundaries
Yeah.
and to find ways to integrate our work and our life in a way that feels sustainable and fulfilling.
And I think a lot of that has to do with flexibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Flexibility is key.
Because not everyone
Right.
works the same or wants the same.
Everyone has different needs.
Yeah.
Everyone has different priorities. And so it's about finding ways to be flexible and accommodating to those individual needs.
And it can be really simple things.
It can be.
Like,
Yeah.
having flexible work hours. Or, just being understanding if somebody needs to take a day off.
Yeah, I think it's also about creating a culture where people feel comfortable talking about their needs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like if someone needs to leave early to pick up their kids,
Yeah.
or if they need to take a break to go to a doctor's appointment, it should be okay to talk about those things.
Right. Because life happens.
Right.
Yeah.
And we need to be more understanding and accommodating of that.
It seems like we've reached the end of our deep dive into these 12 questions.
It does.
I mean, we've talked about so much: emotional well-being, stress management, clarity at work, strong relationships, opportunities for growth and recognition,
It's a lot.
the importance of turning insights into action, so many things.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
But I think we've just scratched the surface,
That's right.
right?
Oh, absolutely. Employee well-being is a complex and multifaceted topic, and there's always more to learn and explore.
So what are some key takeaways you'd like our listeners to remember?
Well, I think the most important thing is to remember that employee well-being is not a destination, it's a journey.
Okay.
It's an ongoing process,
Yeah.
and it requires constant attention and care.
So it's like a garden, you have to constantly be tending to it.
Exactly.
Mhm.
You have to water it, you have to weed it, you have to make sure it's getting enough sunlight, and you have to be willing to adjust your approach as needed.
So what are some kind of more concrete
Well,
steps that
right.
employers can take?
Yeah, I think a great place to start is just by starting a conversation with your team.
Okay.
Pick a few of those 12 questions that we've been talking about,
Yeah.
the ones that really resonate with you, and just share them with your team. Say, hey, I'm really interested in understanding how you're feeling about work, how you're feeling about your workload,
Mm-hmm.
how you're feeling about the support that you're receiving. And I want to use these questions as a starting point for a conversation.
So it's more about just, opening up that dialogue.
Exactly. It's about creating a space for open and honest communication
Mm-hmm.
where people feel comfortable sharing their thoughts and their feelings without fear of judgment or retribution.
And I think sometimes we get so caught up in these grand visions and these elaborate plans that we forget that sometimes the smallest actions can have the biggest impact.
Absolutely.
So what are some of those small things that employers can do?
I think one of the easiest things is just to start your team meetings with a check-in.
Okay.
Instead of just jumping right into the agenda, take a few minutes to connect with people on a personal level.
Yeah.
Ask them how they're doing, what's going on in their lives, what are they excited about, what are they struggling with.
About being human. Right.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about recognizing that people are not just robots showing up to complete tasks.
Right.
They're human beings with lives and families and emotions and all of that.
So a lot of companies are now dealing with remote and hybrid teams.
Yeah.
How do you kind of build that connection
Yet is a challenge.
when you're not always face to face?
It is, and I think it requires more intentionality,
Okay.
right? You can't just rely on those chance encounters in the hallway or at the water cooler anymore.
Yeah.
You have to be more deliberate about creating opportunities for connection.
So what are some things that companies can do?
So I think one thing is to schedule virtual coffee breaks or lunches
Okay.
where people can just chat and connect on a personal level.
Okay.
You can also do online team building activities. There's a ton of great options out there now. And I think even just sending a quick message to someone to check in on them to see how they're doing
Yeah.
can make a big difference.
Right.
It shows that you care.
And it's so simple.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key, right?
Mm.
It doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be genuine
Right.
and consistent.
Okay. So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive,
Yep.
I mean, we've covered a lot of ground, but what's that one final piece of advice that you would give to our listeners?
I think the biggest takeaway is that creating a thriving work environment where well-being is a priority is not just the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's also good for business.
Right.
When employees feel valued and supported and empowered,
Yeah.
they're more engaged, they're more productive, and they're more committed to the success of the company.
It's a win-win.
It is.
So to our listeners, I hope you found this deep dive insightful, and I encourage you to take what you've learned and start taking action.
Yeah, start small.
Yeah.
Pick one thing that you can implement in your workplace today
Yeah.
and just see what happens.
That's great advice.
And remember, it's a journey,
Yes.
not a destination. So be patient with yourself,
Mhm.
be patient with your team, and just keep moving forward.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deeper into the fascinating world of human potential and well-being.